I'm Mike Costello, and I'm here with Dr. Iris Freelander, and today we'd like to talk to you about being enchanted with life. And indeed, we do need to be enchanted with life, don't we, Iris?
Yes, we do. And the more enchanted we are, the more we feel at one and peaceful in our life. And sometimes we have to make an effort to bring that enchantment, make it be alive. It's just like we have all kinds of counselors now telling people how to have good relationships, how to get along with others, and so forth and so forth and so forth. But we need to be enchanted with our lives, whatever it is. And when we show that enchantment, it changes our body energies, and it changes our endorphin level. And the endorphin level can be called the pleasure connection. And it is important that we have our endorphin level high. So the more enchanted we are with life, the more high our endorphin level is.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing to me as I talk to people and work with different individuals and groups how people lack enchantment or even and enthusiasm for life. And I guess it has to do with a lot of different things, but even the word, we don't use that word much anymore, do we? Enchanted.
No, we think of Ethiopians singing Some Enchanted Evening.
Uh-huh.
And as we think of enchantment, we can think of songs that bring us alive and then sing those or hum them, and we can play them on our equipment. And we can, again, know ourselves and know what makes us feel enchanted. Sometimes it's just as simple as doing a little dance in the middle of the floor or looking at ourselves in the mirror and looking and saying something absurd. But again, if we live alone or if we live with others, makes a big difference. And then when we have children, we have to make sure that that enchantment is there for them. I can remember once going through a troubled spot in my life, and my little son said to me, "Smile, Mother," when he would see me throughout the house. And it brought me alive, and it made me see that I was really doing an injustice to my family when I wasn't being happy and smiling and showing that. So we have to be aware of how we affect others. And the way we affect others affects us too. So we have to see how we're treating ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I know I speak every Sunday, of course, at church, and I speak at other times to business groups and religious groups and anybody that'll listen, actually. But anyone who asks, I'm happy to speak. But I always draw upon the reaction of the people and how that how I'm translating my emotion, my feeling, and my message to them. And that shows in people's faces as they respond to us. And it shows in people's faces on an individual level as well. When people are interested and when people are enchanted or enthralled with what we have to say or we have to offer them. And that's not to say that we need to be entertaining people all of the time, but I think that we do need to be sensitive to the fact that we are always projecting something to the world and to the universe. And on this program, we talk a lot about vibration, and that might be a new concept for a lot of people, but for us in New Thought and metaphysics and in our work, vibration is the resonance of all that really is. And so that vibration of enchantment is a gift that can be cultivated and can be given to other people, and we can see it and we can begin to feel it, and it begins to bounce back and forth around us, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And when we let the problems of the world weight us down, then we're doing an injustice to ourselves and to the people around us. And we're not helping the situation any. So we need to really not be so serious about what's happening. And no, it's just like some of us don't watch the TV news because we find it too distracting and depressing. Well, if we read the papers and get news in other ways, then it's okay. But I'm not saying that we should skip being informed. But we have to know what makes us feel bad or what makes us feel good, and then act accordingly and plan our days and nights accordingly. But when there's enchantment in our lives, then it's like a child, and you've seen children who have a big surprise, and they just think that, and life is so wonderful, and they share their secrets and they share their surprises. Well, we can look at the children and try to emulate them, and when we do, then we see that life is indeed a true enchantment. And I know children love butterflies, and they love watching the butterflies. And one day last week, I was my little grandson and I were watching the butterflies, and I said, let's hold out our fingers and let the butterfly land on it. And would you believe the butterfly really did? And it was so enchanting. And he just took it for granted, but I was delighted and amazed. But we can be delighted and amazed at little things. And then the big things don't quite seem so formidable, do they?
Absolutely. And I think so often in our lives we are overwhelmed by the immensity of life and the demands of life, and that becomes so wearisome for us. Just as you were saying, the news and what goes on in the world. So many of us are so negatively affected by it, and we are talking about whether or not we're responding in a positive or a negative way. And certainly, if we're enchanted with life, we're responding to life in the most positive way, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And there's times I've spoken about stretching out your immensity consciousness, and people think that's a rather weird subject, but it isn't, because when we stretch our immensity consciousness, we're looking into the future, we're looking ahead, we're looking at possibilities, and we're looking at all positivity. Everything is positive. And so when we do that, then it is a wonderful exercise. And I would just suggest that others do that same thing. Just look. And whatever we think might be impossible, know that it isn't. And with God, all things, we've been told, all things are possible. And so we know that that's true. But sometimes we lose sight of that. And we lose sight of the fact that we need enchantment in our lives. And we need to give that enchantment to others and make things special for others, so that the people around us have enchantment in their lives too.
You used a term, just a minute ago, and that just now escaped me as fast as I came into immensity. Immensity, if we think of ourselves as immense, that in our inner person or in our outer person, it doesn't really matter, but I think we are immense beings with immense capabilities. We're huge in terms of our ability to love and our ability to create and our ability to do positive things. And if we can catch a glimpse of that, we catch a glimpse of that enchantment that we need to have with life.
Yes, and whatever seems impossible to us, well, we can see just the opposite, and that would be also our immensity consciousness being stretched. And there's always things that we can do to make enchantment in our lives. And another thing we can do is to do special things for other people. And very often, when we're doing something special for other people, it's truly an enchantment for us. And they say the giver is more blessed than the one who receives. Well, I think that's true. So we can look for ways in our lives, and just little things. Like if we work in a public place, we can do something special for another person, something unexpected that's a surprise. It might even be anonymous, but just something to delight another person. And that reflects back in our lives so much more fully, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that reflection back does give us a great, great joy and a sense of satisfaction. And it enriches us, and we can then see a change that takes place in the countenance of people who live lives that way.
Yes, and a lot of people might say, well, we're being very Pollyanna when we say, well, spread enchantment in the lives of others, or make sure that enchantment is included in our own routine. But it's not Pollyanna, it's being very realistic. And also, I think everyone has some kind of spiritual belief or some or similar. I'm thinking of one person I know who claims to be an atheist, and he might say, well, I don't have a spiritual belief. But we all have something that delights us, something that is special in our lives, and something that gives greater meaning to our lives. So then that's another way we can indulge in enchantment. It's just daydreaming about whatever that is in our lives that gives our life added meaning. And as we do that, then it automatically reflects into the people around us and reflects and makes their lives happier and more fulfilled. Today, there was men working in the doing the sewer, replacing the sewer in front of my house, and I walked out to say something to my neighbor, and those men who were working at the sewer, there was 4 of them, and they had stopped to have their lunch. And so I thought I should say something to them. And I just said, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for doing a wonderful job here. And I was just amazed to see how it brightened their day. And I thought, we need to do that more often. We need to just acknowledge people. And I don't think it's what I said that did it. It was just being acknowledged. And so that's a good lesson for us to just acknowledge other people around us and that they're there. Mm-hmm. And so that's a form of enchantment. But we can put enchantment in other people's lives, and then again, it reflects back to us and makes us feel ever so much better about our own lives.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who we are. Most of us come in contact with so many, many people, and yet we fail to make any kind of connection. And that is an amazing reality, how we do that. But we do it so well, most of us. And we go about our daily lives, and a good part of it has to do with this issue that we talk a lot about on this program, and we talk a lot about in New Thought and Metaphysics and in our counseling work about being present in the moment, being present here and now. And we're often thinking about what we need to do, or thinking about where we're going, or thinking about the next thing. And we even do that when we're having conversations with people. We think about what we're going to say next. And if we just would be in the flow of what's happening, just as you were in the flow of what was happening with these gentlemen that were providing a wonderful service. I mean, heavens, think what life would be without the sewers. And the sewers are very important. But work is important, and the value of work is important. All aspects of work and all kinds of work and all people are important and valued. And if we could convey that and share that sense of value and mutual importance across all of our relationships and with all of those with whom we come in contact, what a wonderful world this would be.
Yes, it is. And whatever lifts us would lift others. And so a smile is so wonderful and so incredibly uplifting. And sometimes when we least expect it, a smile can lift us right out of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Smiling is something that I think a lot of people just don't do enough of. And I know one of the things that just amazes me at church sometimes is, we could have a wonderful church service, and everyone is enjoying themselves wonderfully. And then, as of course we always, our tradition and custom is to make a circle and to sing at the end, and then to watch the circle and see how many people retain that happiness. We're happy in a given moment or in a given experience, but to take that with us and to have it with us. And what I see on people's faces so often is concern or even fear, mm-hmm. as much as I see happiness and laughter and smiling. And of course, children are great at laughing and smiling.
Yeah. And apathy is so prevalent today because people just, I think, get on overload, and then apathy sets mm-hmm. in. But it just takes one person to start the round going. And so then if we look at others and smile, then they're going to look at others and smile, and it'll be like a round robin.
Right. And if we just start smiling at people, then they'll wonder what it is we're smiling about, and they'll smile at other people. We'd like to pause at this point in the program and offer you some information.
Like to offer you the opportunity to receive one of these free booklets to further your understanding of the New Thought message of confident living. Each month we will feature a different booklet, which will be mailed to you free and postage paid. Simply address your request to Confident Living at P.O. Box 7726, Long Beach, California, 90807.
Smiling is a real easy way of conveying a positive attitude, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it doesn't cost us anything, and it makes us feel better. And I think when we smile at others and they respond, it lifts our heart so much. So we need to be aware of other people. And there's so many ways we can lift the spirits of other people, in addition to smiling, is just to do little things that lift them, or a compliment, a genuine compliment, not something that we're just dragging out of nowhere, but to really acknowledge someone's worth makes all the difference in the world and the life of people. And there's things going around on the internet where there's the little vignettes where they say that because someone was kind to them, they didn't commit suicide that day, or things like that, stories like that. And probably those are made up, but they could be very well true, because we never know how we're going to impact on another person's life. And so we just can look out for other people and lift. And I can, if we look at our own lives and see when we've been down or depressed or been going through a tough time, and where other people lifted our spirits, and then we can pass it on.
Mm-hmm. And that adds enchantment, doesn't it?
Yes.
Just, I mean, we think of that word, and at the beginning of the program, we talked about how seldom we use even the word enchanted, and we have moved into a different kind of use of language than to say, oh, this is an enchanting experience, or you're an enchanting person. But to do those kinds of things that add enchantment to our lives and the lives of others are so simple and yet so unique, and add as we were talking earlier, I was just struck with the issue of simple civility, and how that has been replaced with the busyness and with the detachment of our daily lives, and the lack of civility for others and ourselves has really robbed us of the enchantment that life used to have for people.
Yes, and we can think of ways that truly enchant us and then share it with others. And I think when I look at my own needs, music is something that fills the bill so much more fully than most anything else. And we can always have access to music. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't have some kind of music instrument in their home, and either a CD or a cassette or the radio. But just lifting our spirits and being in that enchanted mood of accepting and seeing that things are not just ordinary, and then we are in an altered state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. This issue of altered state of consciousness, we talk quite a little bit about that, and that really has to do with shifting our way of thinking and feeling, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And again, we can do it deliberately, or it can just happen. But sometimes we have to deliberately do those things, and deliberately help others, and deliberately give people a hand up. And just writing a little note, or there's so many ways we can lift the spirits of others, and it would depend on the person of what we would do. Mm-hmm. But earlier you touched on keeping your consciousness in present time. Well, I think that is one of the ways we can feel enchantment more fully, is to be one-pointed in our thinking, to keep our consciousness in present time. Then we are enjoying the moment, and it's not just lackadaisical. Just enjoying the moment adds enchantment more fully, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and being right here present with whatever it is that we're doing and whoever it is we are with at a given time, or if we're not with anyone, in the experience of the moment is a tremendous force for good.
Yes, it is. And not only does it help us and the people around us, but it helps the mass consciousness. And it's really interesting that every thought we think, every act we do, every every aspect in our lives impacts on the mass consciousness. And as I read information of a more esoteric nature, this is brought home more fully all the time that we affect everything and everything and everyone affects us. And so that's a big responsibility, isn't it?
Absolutely, that connectiveness that we talk, excuse me, we've talked a little bit about that in the past, and I've talked a little bit about it in some of my lectures, this aspect of the unity consciousness and the unity of all life. And one of the things that's happening on our planet and is happening at this point in the history of the world is this unity and interdependence of all things upon all other things, and how we lean and hold up the fiber of what is, and also hold up the fiber of that which is beyond even our physical sight as well, because there's this magnificent power and this magnificent resource which we call spirituality and religion and the dimension of the mental sciences all coming together in this wonderful place. And this is a great time to be, this is an enchanted time to be living, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And we talk a great deal about, and we know that we're living in the time of greatest change the world has ever known. And with all the changes that are happening, time has escalated. And because of our consciousness shift and consciousness change, then time has changed. And we truly do have less time for doing things. There's truly less time in every day. And so because of that, we have to consciously be aware of how we impact on others, on the emotions of others, and the moods and so forth of other people, and also deliberately put ourselves in whatever mood we want to be. And if we want to be introspective, to deliberately do that. But we don't have the time to just flow into things that we once had. And a lot of people would say, well, it just seems that we have less time. Well, I think regardless of what it is, we truly have less time.
And we keep going faster and faster, don't
Yes.
we? And the faster and faster we go, the less and less we seem to accomplish, at least in terms of our feeling of self-satisfaction and connection. And of course, the faster life moves and life around us moves, the greater the activity around us is, the greater the energy around us is, then the less opportunity we have, or the more conscious opportunities we have to devote to creating this awareness of our interdependence in order to bring the enchantment of life together in one place where it needs to be. And where it needs to be is in this one moment, in the moment of where we find ourselves.
Yes. And we have to be aware of ourselves and aware of our own emotions and aware of how we impact on others, aware of how society and all of our environment impacts on us. We have to be more aware of our own inner self, that inner core. And as we are then, and then we honor that, then we're far happier. And so today, it's harder to keep our equilibrium today, I think, than it was in years past. And it might be because I grew up in a rural area where everything was very pristine and everything was a totally different situation. And many of us grew up in more quiet circumstances. I remember once you gave a talk about the front porch and the patio, and I thought that idea has stuck with me and has really given me food for thought over and over and over and over, because in times past we had the front porch and people sat on it and they greeted each other. And then we moved to the patio, and this is how you described it and defined it. And then we were isolated. And it makes a difference in our lives, doesn't it? That very pattern.
Absolutely, and that pattern of isolation and keeping something between us and the rest of the world and shutting the rest of the world out and keeping private this aspect of our life and our being. And that is a movement away from unity conscious or unity awareness and consciousness and into isolation. And of course, there are times when we need to be somewhat isolated, but certainly not as isolated as we have become and so detached in so many ways, when we need to reconnect with life and reconnect with the enthusiasm and the joy of living. And we do that best when we join hands with someone else. And we talk about that a lot at church and in our counseling work, as people just connect with each other. Just the touch. We know what touch does, and we know what that aspect of human touch for a child or for an adult or for an older person can do, and it's profound. It's tremendous. It's enchanting.
Yes, it really is, and that's a good lesson, isn't it? That's a lesson that suffices for the day. It's just that the human touch means so much. And again, children lead us and children show us. And children always reach up to take your hand when you're going somewhere with them because they like that human touch and they like the fact that they're leading and being led.
And children will respond and relax when they're in a safe place, which is really when they're cradled and when they're held. And of course, that cradling and being held is so much a part, an intimate part of being touched. So
And it's an enchantment for that child. And it's again, we can make our own lives very enchanted, or we can make them very mediocre. It's a choice that we make, and then the act will follow, and we choose whatever it is. But I think today people are so fearful because the news is so fear-filled that we have to. If I would just asking our audience to guard against anything, I would say, guard against being fearful. Guard against being in those circumstances that create fear in your mind. Because, and whatever it is, then don't do it or change your pattern and still live a full and rich life. But I know one time my younger son said to me, "You shouldn't watch those movies on TV," because I had just been startled, and it really made my heart pound just to have an unexpected thought, unexpected occurrence in my life. And if we know that it's going to affect us like that, then don't watch horror movies. Don't watch things that are frightening. We have to know ourselves and then act accordingly. And again, we can bring that enchantment into our lives, regardless of what our life circumstances, because it's a planned approach, and it's something that we either do or just don't even give any thought to.
And then it becomes a natural part of our inner being and our outer experience. It becomes part of us.
Yes, and actually, it's our own spirituality shining through when we act with enchantment or are enchanted.
Absolutely, and that's a great point upon which to end the program. And we hope that you found the information we shared with you interesting. We look forward to seeing you next time.